Hi everybody, this is Vicki with Happy Stout Art. Wanted to go over the supplies you're going to need while taking my, I guess you could call them classes, I guess. But anyways, some of the supplies you're going to need. Now mind you, I've collected these supplies over a period of 2 years. So you do not have to get these right away. It would cost you over $200 to get all of this. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to start with what you can afford and what you can buy at the moment. So I've spread everything out here on my bed. Excuse the mess, but this is pretty much everything that I use. And I want to start out with, you need a good pencil set. And everything you see here pretty much came off of Amazon. I did not order from any of those high-end or fancy, hold on a second. I did not order these items off of fancy or high-end art stores like Blix, but I did order a few of these things from Blix or Blix Art Supplies. A little bit of Cheap Joe's and a little bit of Jerry's Artoramas, which is another online website. But anyways, some of these things can be found at Five Below. Some of these things can be found at Burlington. Some of these things can be found at DD's Discount. So if you have those stores in your area, take a look at them and you'll be able to find some of this supplies. Now this is part one, and this is just the basics of what you need. You need a good pencil set like this for drawing. Part of doing art is learning how to draw. So you need to know how to draw certain things in order to paint them. That's just a part of art. And if you can't draw anything, that's fine. You don't always need to draw out something to paint it. But it would be nice if you would take time every day in a sketchbook and learn how to draw things. Now I don't know how much this pencil set was, but it came in a nice case like this. And I went to Barnes & Noble's and I bought this book. You don't have to do this. You can get daily prompts from off the internet. But what it does is it gives you a daily prompt every day of something to draw. For example, draw a gnome playing checkers. Something fun like that. Don't worry about it if you can't draw a gnome. The whole point is to practice. Also at Barnes & Noble's is this watercolor artist magazine that I go and I buy every month over there. Now I've subscribed, so I should be getting them in the mail. But you do not have to do this. This is just something that you can go to Barnes & Noble's, grab yourself a cup of coffee and do while you're there. And that is thumb through the watercolor artist magazine. It gives highlights and instruction. Here's a plein air painting. Plein air is painting outdoors in a park or someplace you're visiting. You need a good sketchbook. Everybody should have a sketchbook, whether it be this big or small to carry around in your purse. You need a sketchbook. Sketchbooks allow you to sit and practice whether you're in the coffee shop or if you're in the mall or if you're at the park, but it allows you freedom to sketch just about anything. As you can see here, I've sketched my hand, I've sketched a cube. It's just a place where you can go privately and practice art. And here are some of the prompts that I was given from that prompt book. As you can see, we had an eclipse in April, practicing some pyramids, doing a coconut tree. How about a man crossing the road? That was one of the prompts. A chair, a basketball. So these are some of the prompts that I was given out of that book that you saw earlier. You need watercolor paper. This is the cheapest watercolor paper I have found online this far yet, and it's really good quality. If you're going to sell art, I suggest you use Arches watercolor paper. But if you're just doing this for practice, for fun, for relaxation, for a mental escape, You just need the simplest watercolor paper that you can get. This is known as a block. It is sealed all the way around, and it will not buckle that much when you use it to paint on, and buckling usually occurs when you use a lot of water with your watercolors. It comes in 2 different forms. It gives you 32 sheets, which is quite a bit to practice with and should last you quite a while. This is the smooth watercolor paper, 140 pounds, 300 grams, 9 by 12. This is the rough that I just recently bought, which I haven't played with yet, but I am going to. And again, it's a block. It's sealed all the way around. If you don't buy block paper and you buy individual paper, you need a watercolor or a board. And this is to use to tape your single sheet watercolor paper on with masking tape to hold it down so that you can paint on it. So if it buckles, which sometimes it does, and that means it has like little waves in the paper when you've added too much water, the tape will hold it down and make it flat. So you want a watercolor board. This was $9 on Amazon. I forgot to tell you that this is $19.98 on Amazon. This is $19.98 on Amazon. So, you know, you're not spending more than $20 on supplies. If you can spend less than that, then spend less than that. You need watercolor paints. This was a gift to me. I did not buy this. And as you can see, the watercolors are bright, they're brilliant. You also have the metallics, which are a lot of fun. If you're painting butterflies or dragonflies or hummingbirds, the metallics really come in handy. And you can see the wide variety of watercolor pigments in this pan. I don't know how much it cost because it was a gift, but it's a great travel pan if you want to travel. This is another style of pan watercolor. If I get it open. Good night. Hold on. Okay, this is another pan watercolor. I think I paid $24 for this. As you can see, the colors in this one are not as bright. I don't use this one as much as I use my other pan that I really like. But it's okay. It's good for like a beginner using, you know, beginner watercolors. The colors are kind of muted, but I like these red varieties right here. The magentas, the kidney bean color I call it. I like this variety of reds here, so sometimes I'll pop it out just for those alone. And it gives you space to mix your colors. We'll be talking about that later on. Then another style of watercolor is the Japanese version of watercolors. These are a little more expensive. This was $30. You can see that I've already swatched it up here to know which colors they are. It does include the metallic colors, which you really want if you're painting hummingbirds. It comes in bright colors. It's very translucent though. It's not as thick as regular watercolors. So if you're doing something translucent like a glass or a jar, these would be excellent for that. But just keep in mind they're very translucent. It comes with the neon colors, as you can see here. Those are bright neon colors. So having a different variety of watercolor really comes in handy. Watercolor comes in another form as well. Comes in the form of tubes. These I got for $19.98 off of Amazon. These are Winsor Newtons. And what I did was I opened them up, and you have to be careful with these because they overflow the tube, and I don't know why. Maybe because it was under pressure from shipping. But what I did was I opened up these tubes, put them in a plastic bag like this, and I put them in this porcelain palette, which you also might want to get. You don't have to, but the porcelain palette really holds a great amount of your watercolors. All you have to do is take a small spray bottle like this and just simply spray it, and it'll reignite your watercolors. So you can leave it out sitting to dry and just spray it, and it'll reignite your watercolors. Watercolors also come in another form called watercolor pencils. These are handy to have if you're traveling. You don't need to bring the tubes with you. You don't need the palette. You just need your brushes. And you just lay these down on your paper, and then you use a brush to wet them and reignite them. I call it reignite, but to bring them back to life. And they're very good for travel. So it'll go through customs and everything, you know, through the airport really good. And they're light, so they're good for traveling, like in your bag or your backpack, or maybe in your purse, and you can take them with you to sketch on site. So these are great for traveling, but also for practice. I love practicing drawing with these and then adding water to them and painting with them. So that's another tool you can use. You need masking fluid. Now my masking fluid is getting old. You can tell because it's yellowing. So I'll need to buy some new masking fluid. It does not last forever. What this does, it allows white space on your paper that you don't want to paint. So it creates a negative effect. Also, this does the same thing, the Aquafix. It creates a negative effect on your paper. So if you want some, let's say, splattering of water in a river that's, you know, tumbling over rocks, then you would use this to white out certain areas of that tumble to make it look like water spatters. You need at least the minimum 2 jars of water. It can be anything, any kind of container. I'm using, of course, recycled containers, old jelly jar and an old Tostitos jar. Just run them through your dishwasher and they'll be good as new. And you need at least 2 jars, one for cleaning your brush and one for like extra clean water, so that your brush doesn't get dirty again. So you need one for cleaning your brush and then one for just plain clean water. So you need 2 jars of those. And then it helps to have some sponges. Sponges are great. They cost about $7 a pack. You get a pack of them. When you get them, they'll be bigger than this. Cut them up. And these are great for making plants in your watercolor pictures or landscapes. So I'll be demoing that later on, how to make plants with these. You need a wide variety of watercolor brushes. Now I've bought these over the years, 2 years that I've lived here. I have even more than this. But basically you need a wide variety of them with different heads on them. Excuse the watercolor pencil. I don't know how I got mixed up in that. But you need flat brushes, round brushes. Let me get my other brushes out real quick. These are some of my other brushes that I have. I have like a lot of them. And you want a variety of brushes for a variety of things. Making plants, doing animal fur, things like that. So I will be going over the brushes later on. And demoing that later on as well. So let me put those back. A really neat tool I bought years ago is these watercolor crayons. Also great for traveling. And they look like pastels. In fact, they look like oil pastels. As you can see, you have a variety of color. I like this one here. This one's flesh tone, which is very rare to find in watercolors. But they're great for travel. You got a different variety of colors to use when you're traveling. You've got the burnt umber, you've got the orange, you've got the red, you've got the yellow, you've got the magenta, you got the green for the grass, ultramarine for the sky or the sea, and then another type of green, and then of course a darker gray, black, maybe well, it tells you on the lid here what the colors are. So that's the colors there. But these are also great to take with you when you're traveling to do plein air painting on the spot. So I don't know if these are even sold anymore. I believe I got this one at Michael's for $13, but this was over 10 years now. 10 years ago that I got this. And look, it lasts forever. You know, most of these art supplies, including watercolor, last forever. They found watercolors in Egypt that were over 3,000 years old, and they wet them down and they reignited. So watercolors last a long time. So they might be a little bit expensive to buy in the beginning, but once you've bought them, they last forever. Unlike oils and acrylics. These are color wheels that you need to purchase. This tells you the opposite colors of what to paint. It also gives you a diagram of the different variations of that color. It gives you the value scale, which you need for darks and lights in your painting. So these come in really handy. You can also take those with you when you're plein air painting, just for support. This is all of my art supplies in a hand basket. I have acrylic inks for mixed media work. I have my palette knives for cutting the blocks and getting the paper out. All my brushes. I have some acrylic markers. I have some wider brushes. I have my mechanical pencils. All these I put in a container that I bought from Avon. Also, I'll be sharing with you my travel kit, plein air kit, that I would take with me if I travel. So I'll be sharing that later. I think this video is long enough, so I'm going to take off for now. This is Vicki Stout with Happy Stout Art. I will be back maybe later on this week or maybe next week with our first instruction. All right, y'all, take care. Bye-bye.